Sunbelt takes down the MAC. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. So the Sunbelt and the MAC will be what everybody is talking about all day today. All right, little self-deprecating humor. That was quite a Super Bowl, all right? And as much as Patrick Mahomes is an outstanding quarterback and deserves all the accolades that he so, richly deserves, Kyle Shanahan has now blown his third lead in Super Bowl, and only two of those are as a head coach, but goodness, run the damn ball. God, is it that hard? All right, we had quite the weekend in Sunbelt basketball. Sunbelt takes down the MAC 10-2. That's impressive. All right. It's tough to win on the road. And Georgia Southern. That's not good. That's not good. And ODU dropped one as well. But I caught I don't know what I was watching the Syracuse game. So I was watching the Syracuse game, and if you can somehow lose when the other team turns the ball over 20 times and you have less than 10, well, Syracuse managed to do that against Clemson. But then I turned into the App State game late, and App down by 9 points with like 3.5 minutes to go. They tie things up. And I didn't think they got an and one, right? They got an and one. Was it? They got an and one at the end. And they tied things up. I didn't think Toledo did not have the best of all plays at the end of the ball game. I didn't think they ran a play. It was just kind of a step back jumper. I guess it looks good if it goes in, and it doesn't look good if it doesn't go in. I just didn't think they ran much of a play. Then at the end of the first overtime, I thought of a little bit of a rinky-dink foul on a loose ball, and Donovan Gregory gets a chance to basically win the game with 2 seconds left to go. Misses both free throws. Doesn't miss one free throw, misses both free throws. And we're going to double overtime. And Gregory, one of the heroes in double overtime. The Mountaineers were already up 1. He gets a really acrobatic layup. Justin Abson adds a couple of free throws at the end, and App State ends up winning a thrilling and a fun basketball game. We saw one earlier in the year. Let me see. It was South Alabama pre-conference, and you just happen to catch these games. Oh, it was Nichols. That was a crazy game. Actually, South Alabama lost that basketball game. And this was a lot like this because it was back and forth all game long. Toledo outscored App State in the first half, 47-46. App State was, 1 point better in the second half. That's how you get to OT. App State had a chance to build, I believe, in the first overtime on a lead. Couldn't do it. Toledo had a chance to build on the second half. In the second overtime, couldn't do it. And it was a great basketball game. App State now 20-5 on the year, 11-0 at home. They are going to be tough. Cajuns get them this weekend. We'll see how good the Cajuns are. We'll get to them later on. They bounce back with a rather dominating win over Bowling Green, but we'll get to them a little bit later. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Let's check out the other top team. We didn't preview these ball games, so I'm not going to take credit for what I would have said. Troy, relatively easy. Maybe got a little bit of a break getting a middling Kent State basketball team. Troy 17-8. Kent State is 12-12. Okay. And all Troy for the most part. Troy 78-68 over Kent State. Let's see here. Rigsby for Troy with 22 points. Christian Eugene and Muhammad had 11 and 10. And Jones had 10 off the bench for the Trojans. They are 17-8 overall. Remember, none of these games had anything to do with the standings, and Troy is technically ahead of App State. Because they beat them, they are 10-2. App State also 10-2. James Madison is in third place, 1 game ahead of the Cajuns, who are 8-4. So Trojans stay hot. How many? Troy seems to be a little bit hotter than I thought. Troy all of a sudden has a winning streak. They've won, 6 in a row, and actually, they've won 12 out of 14. Their only losses were 2 games on the road, and both of them were really close. They lost to South Alabama 74-71, and they lost to Southern Miss 64-63. That's how close they are to a 14-game winning streak. Troy is going to be tough in Pensacola. My goodness. All right, elsewhere, let's check out JMU. Right, we do the 3 top teams first. We have that. We have JMU listed in the second segment. Oh, well. Life is about making the adjustments. JMU with, blowout second half over Akron. That's a nice win. Akron's 8-6, 18-6 overall. Only a 28-24 lead at half, but then James Madison catches fire and outscores Akron. The Zips 45-35 in the second half. Green coming off the bench with 17 points for the Dukes. He led the way. Wow. Terrence Edwards, is it junior? It's junior, right? He had 15 points. I don't know why I want to say the third. Green is the third. And TJ Bickerstaff, he had 14. And just, methodical win for JMU. Looks like Akron didn't shoot as well in the second half as they did in the first half. Akron only 5 of 29. 5 of 29 from 3 and held to less than 34% from the floor overall, whereas JMU, they shot 51% for the ball game. Boards were relatively even, and let's see, the turnovers were also relatively even. So JMU, they improved to 22-3, and I think their CNET rating is close to 50. But the way things are now, it's just does not appear that the Sun Belt will have 2 bids this season. The Texas State loss is hurting App State a little bit. Someone mentioned like 5 spots, but they're 81. So, when you're a Sun Belt team, you got to be in the high 20s or low 30s for an at-large berth. They're just not going to take the Sun Belt team when they're somewhere between 35 and 40. And right now, I guess if JMU continues to win, depending on who's on their schedule, because some of those wins could hurt, depending on who you're playing. It's just too much to go. The NCAA won't take a borderline Sun Belt team when they can add a, 5th or 6th ACC team, Big 10 team, SEC team, just Big 12 team. It just won't happen. It just won't happen. So to be safe, you have to be in the high 20s or low 30s. Anything lower than 35, you should be in good shape for an at-large berth. All right, let's take a timeout. We'll continue to roll. Southern Miss gets another win behind Juan Cardona, stepping in for Jay Ladner. Back after this, you're listening to Lockdown Sunbelt, your team every day. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. 2.5 million small businesses are using LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. All right, Southern Miss without their leader, Jay Ladner, still on the mend, and it appears that he is on the mend. When they won on a Wednesday, Ladner reached out to his players and tell them how much he appreciated them and how much he loved them. So, and Juan Cardona also was, emotional after that. We'd love to get Juan on the podcast because it is I'm not sure how the riches are, but it really is a rags. I'd say richest story, but certainly when you talk where he was to where he is now, right? He has a roof over his head. He can feed his family. I'm guessing he has health insurance, and that's big, even if you're single. But if you got kids, it's even more important. And that's a lot to do with Jay Ladner, giving Juan a job. And again, if you've ever watched a Southern Miss game, I said this last time, there is no one more intense on the sideline than Juan Cardona. Jay's coaching the team, but Juan is going up and down the sideline, urging the guys to play defense, getting up on the chairs and getting the crowd into it. He is fun to watch. All right. He is really, really intense and passionate in the game. In control. I think he's in control, but he is emotional, I guess I would tell you. He is a controlled emotion is what I would say. All right. So Southern Miss does get the win. They beat Western Michigan in a blowout, 86-54. All right. See if we can say it right now. Victor Iwako. I think I got that right. Iwako. He had 31 points and 13 rebounds. That's a nice ball game. That's a good ball game in the NBA. Even more impressive in college. He led the way, 12 of 16 from the floor. So they just kept on feeding him. Obviously, Western Michigan just had no answers for Iwako. So a good job by Southern Miss to recognize that. But they had 5 guys in double figures. Let's see here. Off the bench, Isaiah had 13. Victor Hart is back. That's good to see. Andre Curbelo is not back just yet, but Victor Hart played 15 minutes. That's good. 11 points and 3 rebounds. That's a big addition for Southern Miss as we get down the stretch here. And let's see. Ivory had 12, and Austin Crowley, he had 10 and 10 assists. So Austin Crowley had the guard double-double. He was feeding. Obviously, he's the one feeding Iwako all those buckets. So big win, easy win for Southern Miss, 86-54. All right, elsewhere, South Alabama, they bounced back. Richie Riley missed a couple of ball games due to his mother's passing. We mentioned that. But now they've all of a sudden won a couple of ball games. They were on a 5-game losing streak. Some they played better than others. Didn't play all that well against the Cajuns. They came off they had a bad loss against ULM where they did not really show up. Played extremely well against Troy, although they lost. In this one, they basically controlled it against Northern Illinois, 75-66. They improved to 12-13 on the season. I think having a really good year. I don't know if he's getting overlooked or not. Every time I see him, he is in double figures. Turbo Jones, 23 points. And they've taken Isaiah Gator. I don't know if he's hurt. He had his thumb wrapped. He had 3 points, but we'll get to him in a second. But Turbo Jones, I think, has had a really solid season for the Jags. Again, 23 points, 3 steals, a couple of assists. Margrave, he had 12 points. Ormiston had 10. Smurf Millender, he started. He had 5 points. He only shot 1 of 6. But the disappearance of Isaiah Gator, again, is a little mind-boggling. Again, I guess we're going back like 3 weeks. All right, he did have a big ball game against Georgia Southern a couple of games, 2 games ago. But let's add it up. He had 25 points against the Cajuns on Saturday the 20th. He's played in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games since. Let's see here. 5. He had 3 against ULM, 2 against Troy, 6 against Texas State. Did not score against the Cajuns in 20 minutes. Had 11 against Georgia Southern, so that was nice to see. 9 of 10 free throws. 1 of 2 field goals, but obviously he was going to the bucket. So he had 14, 20, and 25. So he had 25 points against the Cajuns on January 20th. He has scored 25 points since in 6 ball games. I do not get it. I don't know if I don't think he's in hot water. He's just not playing well. Now, he could be injured. Someone said he may have been under the weather, but that is mind-boggling, those numbers. Nonetheless, South Alabama does get the win. Good to see Richie Riley back at the helm. And again, we continue to pass our condolences to Riley. All right. Georgia State all of a sudden has won 2 in a row with an easy win. Blowout victory over Miami of Ohio, the Red Hawks, 73-53, right? Georgia State ends up blowing out, I guess, if you will. The Cajuns, they were down big, and then they, won big-ish on Wednesday, and they've used that momentum to win a couple in a row. They're 11-13. Remember, they're 11-13 overall. Let's see who had the big ball games for Georgia State. They had 4 or 5 starters in double figures, led by Lane, 17 points. I can't say this. Let's see here. Taylor had 10 and Odom had 10. I'm sorry. Taylor had 15 and Odom had 10. I should be able to say this. Nikurem. That's not how you say it. I should know how to say that. But he had a good ball game nonetheless. 14 points and 4 rebounds. I do apologize. Again, Georgia State 73-53 over Miami of Ohio. Hunter for the Red Hawks had 19 points. All right, let's take a timeout. We'll do the rest of the Sun Belt. Cajuns bounce back with really what was a dominating performance on Sunday against Bowling Green. We'll do that when we come back. Let me tell you about FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. All right, elsewhere in the Sun Belt, Cajuns with a blowout win, 86-60. They bounced back very nicely, thank you. For some reason, the guys, I guess because they scored 86 points and had balance scoring, 5 guys in double figures. Themis Folks, 17 points leading the way. Hosina Kintinge, 16 points, 10 rebounds. Michael Thomas off the bench had 12. Joe Charles had 14. Kobe Julian had 10. I don't think it was necessarily the offense. They shot 50% from 3, 9 of 18, 57% overall. But to me, it was the defense. It was absolutely the defense. Even though Bowling Green shot 44%, Bowling Green led this ball game 20-19 with about 11 minutes to go in the first half. It took them 20 game minutes. So with 10 minutes left to go in the game, they scored the next 20. And by that time, well, I can tell you, by that time, I think the Cajuns had like a 20-point lead. By the time they had 40 points, 57-40 with 11:08 to go in the game. So by the time they scored their second 20, right, it only took them 9 minutes to score the first 20 points. It took them 10 and 9, I guess. So 19 minutes to score the next 20 points. So I think it was the defense. I think the Cajuns defense played extremely well there. That's what I noticed, because the Georgia State team, even when they were coming back, we said this for the Thursday episode, even when they were down, they just seemed to go to the bucket like uncontested. And it was not as easy for Bowling Green, who's bigger than the Cajuns overall. They did have one player who played well, or one player who scored well, I should say. Hill had like most of their points. Marcus Hill, 22 points on 10 of 17 shooting. Out of the 60. At one point, it was like 22 out of like the 45 or 20 out of 45, something along those lines. He had a bunch of those points. So the Cajuns improve. Let's see here. Cajuns improved to 16-9. And they've won. What did we say? They've won. So they've won 8 out of 9. They get Old Dominion, which is a trap game. Although we do have Themis folks talking about that. We'll post that video later on in the week. And then they get App State. And we're going to find out how good this Cajuns team is. That it doesn't even matter if you win it. It's nice to win it if you're the Cajuns. You'll want to see how you can compete because... And then you get Troy later on. So you're going to find out how good, Cajun at home, by the way, and then Southern Miss twice. You're going to find out how good the Cajuns are going to find out how good they are and if they have a legit shot in the to defend their Sun Belt championship. That's what they are attempting to do. All right. Let's see. Elsewhere, Old Dominion falls by 58-57 to Central Michigan. Jenkins had 16 points for the Monarchs, as did Williams and R.J. Blankney. Remember, they're doing it without Alette. And Central Michigan actually had a couple players off the bench. Davis had 19 points off the bench, and Rubio had 10 points off the bench. Butler had 13 for the Chippewas. And maybe that's not too even either, right? The Chippewas are 14-10 or 13-10 coming in. Old Dominion was, 6-18. That's how, again, Troy got the easy game of it. Maybe Old Dominion should have got Kent State, and Troy should have got Central Michigan. Would have been a little bit more even. I don't know if they did it by net rating or whatever the case is, but that doesn't seem to be on an even deal. Arkansas State with a win over Ohio, 100-87. I think they've won a couple in a row now, right? 3 out of 4. They did lose to James Madison. They put up a good battle in that ball game. They lost 77-73 to James Madison, but they did win 100-87 over Ohio. Let's see here. Caleb Fields only had 8, but Ford had 19. Nelson had 17, and Dominguez had 16. How about Todd? Jeez. That Taryn Todd had 20 points in 26 minutes. That is what we call efficient. Plus 7 rebounds. Have yourself a ball game there. 2 steals, 1 assist. 8 of 13. 4 or 5 from the free throw line. Nice ball game by Taryn Todd. And maybe a game that, maybe looks a little bit closer than it actually was. Seems like it was double digit for most of the way. But a nice win as Arkansas State improves to 11-14. Remember, there were 4 games under 500 to begin, maybe 5 games under 500 to begin the conference play. Let's see. No, there were 4. It says 5, 5 and 8. I thought they were 4 and 9, but all right. Maybe I could be wrong. 6-6 in the conference, 11-14 overall. All right. They got a little bit of a road trip coming up, so we'll see how they do this week. I see they hit Troy and South Alabama. Let's see here. It is Troy and South Alabama. And then they get them again. So interesting how that'll work out. The Cajuns have that with Southern Miss or Southern Miss has that with, I think, South Alabama and the Cajuns, something like that. Let me see Southern Miss's schedule, because it's the same. They got South Alabama. Southern Miss has South Alabama and the Cajuns back-to-back weekends. Well, you don't have to work on scouting that. I guess that's hashtag always a bright side. It's not It's not a new team. Disappointing loss for Georgia Southern. A friend of mine, Josh Wetzel's the voice of Buffalo, and they're not good. They had 2 wins up until this point. You got to give it up to Georgia Southern for battling. They took the lead late, end up forcing overtime, and I think Buffalo had like a 4-point possession. They got fouled on a 3-point play, missed the 3rd free throw, got an offensive rebound, and put it back in for a layup. Buffalo won this ball game 82-81. I know they're relatively even because the records are Georgia Southern's now 5-20. Buffalo is 3-20. Georgia Southern's better than Buffalo. That's not a game that they should lose. If you're improving like we think they are, they need to win that ball game. They really do. Monroe with a win over Eastern Michigan, 82-76. All of a sudden, Monroe's playing a little bit better, huh? Monroe has won 5 of their last 7. They lost on the road twice to the Cajuns and Arkansas State, but they beat Old Dominion on the road, beat South Alabama, beat Arkansas State at home. Then they just beat Coastal Carolina, and now they've beaten Eastern Michigan. They get a little bit of a road trip as well. They're at Southern Miss and then at Troy. That is not going to be easy. Good luck to ULM. And Texas State beats Ball State 68-60. And all of a sudden, Texas State they've won 4 in a row, right? They lost to the Cajuns twice. They lost to Arkansas State. They lost to Troy. They just didn't have anything against the Cajuns, losing by 20. Then all of a sudden, they beat South Alabama in a game that was not as close as 74-66. Then they beat Southern Miss. Then they beat App State, which is a nice win. And now they've beaten Ball State. So that's 4 in a row for the Bobcats. They, too, have they got a 4-game swing. They're going to South Alabama and Southern Miss, and then the Georgia Southern and Georgia State. They wrap things up against Monroe and Troy. But that is going to be a tough couple of weeks for the Bobcats. All right. All right. So we didn't totally get to softball yet. It has gotten underway. I think Texas State is off to a good start. South Alabama's off to a good start. The Cajuns only lost 1, and that was on Sunday. Crazy ball game. Cajuns are trailing 1-0, and then they get a runner on second base, and it starts to rain. Like pour. And Cal wanted to stop while we waited for the rain to go away, and the umpires wouldn't do it. And so 2 wild pitches later, the Cajuns score. Now, people are saying, well, you got to play through the rain. Well, that's nice, except, if the pitch hits one of the Cajuns girls in the chops or in the hand, right? And it's not so much that the ball got away from the catcher and the run scores. It's, if the pitcher can't control where the ball is going so much, you're putting the batter in danger. And so, it exploded. One of the assistant coaches got ejected. I think one of the Cal catcher went after the Cajuns catcher. It was wild there for a minute. I'll give it up to Cal. They battled and won the ball game. But it was crazy. I did post it at SchulzeCast. You can see that. Here's the question. The Cajuns probably have some good depth in pitching. They didn't give up a whole lot of runs in 5 ball games, Cal, Chattanooga, New Mexico. But if the bats go quiet again when they're playing better competition, and they're going to see some better competition, they get Mississippi State and Baylor. This team is built, can't say to win the college softball World Series. It's really tough to do that when you have to beat Oklahoma in Oklahoma City in Oklahoma City. They're actually going to Norman to take on Oklahoma later this year. The bats can't get quiet, and the bats got quiet. It seems the Cal pitcher who got beat up earlier in the week made the adjustments, but the Cajuns hitters did not. So we'll see. Keep an eye on that moving forward. And baseball's opening up this week. So we'll see. I don't know if we'll be able to get some baseball coaches on, but hopefully we can do those things in the morning while I have time and they're practicing in the afternoon. All right. Thanks so much for hopping on. Thank you for watching and listening. Already got the coaches on. Jeez. Still trying to get 1,300. We're around 1,130 for subscribers. We'll see if we can push that a little bit moving forward as well. But maybe with baseball, we can we will get some more subscribers as baseball and softball season are getting underway. Softball just did, and baseball is getting underway this week. All right, thanks so much for tuning in to Locked on Sunbelt, your team every day. I'm your host, Dave Schultz, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.